You're listening to another episode here at Real Estate Freedom Formula. My name is Cody Hoffine. I'll be hosting today's show. And today we have not just one, but two rock star wholesaling gurus out there that are doing a lot of good deals in Birmingham, Alabama, and the surrounding area. And I'm super excited to introduce you to them. Their names are Philip and Sarah Arthurs. They've been doing this for now 2 years. And they're just basically going to be on this podcast today to help you guys, inspire you guys, motivate you guys to get out there and start taking some imperfect action and get you on your way to doing your first deal. Now, for those of you that are new to the podcast, I want to welcome you first and foremost. We're just going to be breaking down wholesaling, what that term is. It's just simply finding deeply discounted properties that you can then choose different exit strategies, but ultimately turn these properties for a huge profit. So get ready. I want you to get out a piece of paper, get a pen, and I want you to jot down the gold nuggets that are going to be shared with you today. So let's bring our guest on, Sarah and Philip. How in the heck are you two doing?
Doing great. Hey, Cody.
Doing great. Thanks for having us on.
These guys are like one of my favorite couples, by the way. They'll just sit there. They're like the funniest people. But I love that we've been having this common joke back and forth. So they came out and visited me in Salt Lake. And they wanted to stay an extra day so that they could go visit the Great Salt Lake. And I was like, guys, no one visits the Great Salt Lake. This thing is like the ugliest lake. It's like there's nothing there. There's nothing. There's brine shrimp. He calls them sea monkeys, but there's brine shrimp. It's like there's nothing to go look at. It's like the craziest lake in the world. It's like the Dead Sea. So we've always had this joke back and forth, and we always do that on Facebook back and forth. And I'm excited for you guys to be here. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and what is it that got you into real estate in the first place?
Well, so obviously my name is Philip and this is Sarah. And I've always wanted to get into real estate. Actually, I'm a CPA and started my career doing taxes and saw that these real estate guys in Atlanta, Georgia, where I lived back then, were killing it in real estate. And I remember around that same time, I was on an airplane. You're sitting next to a guy on an airplane or a gal, and you just like, it's uncomfortable. It's like, so I start making small talk. Well, what do you do? And this guy's like, well, I buy houses, and then I sell them within the same day. Basically, I walk into one closing room and then the other closing room and walk out with a check. That just racked my brain. How do you do that? And but anyway, so from there, I started reading and thinking about it and trying to get my education. I was not taking any action, just became a student. And that was back in 2008. No, 2008 when I had that conversation with that guy. I started researching it. And it took me till...
Wait a second. Hold on. I want to already stop you. You've been doing this for 2 years, and you heard about this in 2008?
In Atlanta, which if I'd gotten into it in 2008, there's no telling where I'd be right now. But
Sarah, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry, Sarah. The more I learn of this story, I'm just like, oh my goodness, Sarah, I'm so sorry.
Well, the market started crashing right after that too.
Sure.
And so I was like, I'm glad I didn't do it at that time. I was like, I'm glad I didn't get into that. But hindsight's 2020, right? So had I gotten into that at that time, I probably would have killed it right out of the gate. And I was single, didn't have any kids, had all the time in the world.
Yeah.
But I had the golden handcuffs at my CPA job.
And this is the picture I saw on Skype, I'm assuming, the one with the suit and the tie on. Yes. All right. So you hear about it in 2008. You start learning about it. Do you feel like in general, or is the personality type like you want to like do all your due diligence and it gets into this almost like analytical, like you have to learn everything, almost have a perfect plan in place before you take action? Or what took so long?
Well, that fear, had a good paying job with insurance and everything. But yeah, I really don't know what took so long.
Well, and during that time, so he met me in 2009. We got married in 2011. And then we had kids immediately. Our first child was born in 2012, next 2014. So you just kind of get in this, you have this idea, but then life kind of builds up.
Sure. But Sarah, I'm grateful that it was only a 2-year challenge to marry you and not a 10-year challenge from the first time he met you or heard about this. This is perfect. So see, he's already getting better and better each and every day. It's like I only need a couple years to make
like
this
a
perfect.
fine wine. So anyway, so fast forward. It's my 35th birthday.
Yep.
And I just had this realization. I don't know if I would call it midlife crisis or what. I realized I'm 35 years old. I've always wanted to do real estate since I was, right out of college. And I never did it. And I didn't want to wake up one day being, 70 years old and having any regrets. So I want to live life to the fullest. So I made a decision. I was like, I'm going to get my real estate license. I'm going to buy books. I started reading, more education, no action, just education. So it took me about a year of that, of getting my real estate license, reading books, joining the Bigger Pockets stuff. And then I started getting involved in RIA meetings. So I joined multiple RIA meetings here in town, started networking with as many other investors, which that was the best thing I could ever do. Network with a bunch of other local investors. I learned so much from them in that regard. And then I remember one day, Sarah asked her to go with me to an event. Tom was actually speaking at Brian Tripp's RIA meeting here in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's the first and only one Sarah went to with me.
Because of the kids.
Yeah, we had kids. we had a babysitter. Then we went out to dinner afterwards, and we were sitting there talking. And Sarah said, I really like what he had to say. It really resonated well with us.
Yeah.
And from there, she's like, I think this is a good path forward. Let's start doing that. We joined, the real estate coaching program and started, diving right on.
Started going right in. In. And so, Sarah, I feel like you're the driving force then. It's just you needed to hear it and be like, let's go, let's jump into this.
Yeah, maybe. I'm also very analytical, but
are you?
I could see, and really, I'm a big reason that certain things we haven't gone all in on, but
yeah,
I think I saw him, like this was this passion that he had, and I saw a way for us to get there, and it like a way that wasn't going to put our entire family at risk, or
that's right.
It was, it felt doable. And so, and we've just been so blessed with, so many coaches and so many, opportunities to learn from people that are so experienced like yourself, that it's just been a really, it's just been from that, perspective. I don't feel like my kids are at risk. I feel like, we can do this, and this is possible, and we can make the life we want.
Well, let's talk about reality. A lot of people want to know this because this is a very true story. Like, everyone goes through these natural fears. Some may be small to some people, some may be big fears to people. But at the end of the day, this is a very real story. And many people listening to it are like, yeah, I know what you're feeling. Like, I've been there. I've been the one that's like, I keep thinking about it. Like, do I do it? Do I not do it? Will it work for me? Will it not work for me? Do I have to have a lot of money? So you're sharing some pain points that I think naturally every one of us as human beings feel. Let's go back. Let's go right to the beginning. From the time you finally said, hey, I'm all in, how long did it take to do your first deal so that you could be like moving from faith to fact, and then this momentum, this traction started taking place?
Actually, it wasn't very long. We started listening to YouTube videos, watched some of your videos. And I just started taking action before we started the course.
Yep.
I really believe that taking the coaching program really just jump started us. But actually, since we had access to the MLS, I just went and found a list of expired MLS listings.
Yep.
And And I went and I tried to search them on Facebook. This is before I knew about skip trace and all that. So
Yeah, this is before I knew about mail. I started like having a horse carriage drawn
yes.
mail delivery service. It was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I tried to take the stuff that Tom gave us at that tried to do it, and then I'm like, let's just get the coaching. Like a big expense at the time, but
Sure.
I'm really glad we did it. But so I just went and I started messaging people on Facebook like, hey, do you own this house? I noticed you had it for sale. It's expired. I'd like to buy it. Finally found a lady that wanted to sell her house.
Yeah.
And
just off a Facebook post, just like Messenger.
Yes, I just messaged her on Facebook. Yes, that's my house, and yes, I want to sell it.
Phenomenal.
And she ended up being out of state.
Okay.
Wanted to get rid of the house, and she really wanted like 30, 40,000 for her house, and I just kept saying 20. I kept over and over. I can't do any more than 20. And so, anyways, she finally signed the contract. I remember we were at my company picnic. I got the message that she had signed the contract, and I was ecstatic. And
your boss is looking at you while you're dancing on the table. He's like, "What is going on with Philip? He's over there doing like woo wee."
I was really excited. I was doing that on the inside. It was the very first deal, and anyway, so I didn't have a cash buyers list.
Yeah.
I've learned you got to have your buyers first.
Yeah.
That one was a little nerve-wracking to say the least, because
and I'll say so he told me, he was like, she signed this for $20,000, and so we're just both working our full-time, like, I mean, we had great jobs. Great jobs. And so he's like, I want to spend $20,000 by this house. I'm like, you want to spend $20,000? So anyway, we went down this path, and it was like, okay, worst case scenario. I mean, literally the house falls in and we have no insurance. The next, like, that's not the end of the world, right? So we
went
paid
out
for it.
Yeah. So we went out and got a home equity line of credit on our house and pulled, got some equity in there, and we ended up buying that house. We cash for it. We closed on it. And I'm like, well, how the heck are we going to sell this? We were sitting down like Facebook messages. Finally, I just, hammered in a for sale sign in front of the yard, and this lady calls me, and she ended up buying it from us for $34,000. Yeah.
This gets so good, you guys. This gets so good because you're nailing so many principles that are so necessary in real estate in general. And that is, you took action. Hindsight, you're going to see all this, but maybe at the time you're just like, oh, we're just going to go do this. That imperfect action, not having a perfect plan, has probably led you to more success than waiting and building the perfect plan. Because think of prior to this first deal. You said you hear about this concept in 2008. You finally act upon it in 2018, let's say. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And here you are going out there with imperfect action, not an expert. Like we just start messaging people on Facebook, which is brilliant, by the way. And then you get a home under contract at 20 grand and you're like, well, now what? Like, now what do we do? Well, we get a HELOC. Like, what most people don't realize is just by taking action, it leads to a result. And when something happens, at that point, you're able to find, I think we spend too much time educating ourselves and realizing that 90% of the stuff we're planning that will happen or could happen never happens. And it's like, just go do action. It's going to lead to result, and it's going to lead you to what you're going to have to figure out next. And I would much rather live by that plan, just thinking hindsight. And I've not always been this way, just like you guys. But now that I've done it for so many years, it's like, yeah, you just go out there and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Yep. It's $20,000 house, which, by the way, like floors me. You can't even buy, like, trailers go for 20 grand in Utah. I don't know how you buy homes for 20 grand. It's crazy.
I bought it for less than that. I bought one for $1.
$1. Like, that, the only thing at $1, it's not even a dollar store anymore. You got to pay tax. It's like $1.06. It's like, there's nothing for $1 anymore. So you go out there though, but you teach. So there's so many good principles to pull from this that I want the audience to listen to is when they finally jumped in, they were still not experts. They just went out there and failed their way forward. And when they did one action item, it led them to, oh, what do we do next? And then they thought, they did it, and then it led them to their next. So you go out there, you don't know how you're going to do it. You finally get a HELOC, and then you're like, oh, this is crazy. We've never spent this much money before. And then you put a cheap yard sign in the front yard and make $14,000. And I'm assuming was that MLS, or was that like for sale by owner?
No, for sale by owner. I just, rolled the dice and let's go. Let's see if we can do it. And the lady ended up calling us. She was an interesting lady, to say the least. She called me Love. She's like, "Hey, Love." Anyway,
Hey, Love.
this lady was kind of maybe not really want to deal with retail buyers much, but
Sure.
no, she was a sweetheart. But we get to the closing table, and they try to negotiate the price.
Yeah.
Our price down at the closing table. And I learned something from watching you and Tom, and that's, don't have the limited mindset of, there's not enough. Have an abundance mindset.
Sure.
I sat there and I think there's plenty of people that can buy this house. We sold it to her once, we could do it again. So I leaned forward at the closing table and I said, "Are you willing to walk away right now if I don't?" She said, "No, we'll do it." So anyway,
It was just call or bluff. Like
I did. I was
So you literally just leaned
inside,
in.
I was panicking because I was about to get $14,000 off this thing. Well, minus closing costs. So it was
Sure.
but
No, but the whole point is you stayed firm, you held your ground. It was clearly a deal to her at 34. She wouldn't have signed it in the first place. And it's like, no, we had an agreement, and you hold them to it. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. One of the simple text message we always do for like our cash buyers is, even if it's one cash buyer, we always do, "Is this your highest and best?" And there's times where one cash buyer will be like, "Well, I could do 4,000 more." And we're like, "Oh, perfect. We'll take
we
it."
actually learned that from you when we came to visit in Utah for that week. And we've used it, and
It's done well for us.
it has done well. I mean,
Were you there when
Five
Scott
other-
did it on the front row? Were you there? Were you there with Scott? No, you guys did it in like
We
the
were the
smaller
first group.
This was the second group. We had an individual on the front row. So this is our scale event that we host 2 a year. He's sitting on the front row and he's like, "I've got this buyer interested." I said, "Hey, let's see if we can get that price up." And he's like, "But he's my only buyer." I'm like, "He doesn't know that." I'm all, unless you told him that. And he's like, "No, I haven't told him that." And I'm all, "Perfect. Give me your phone." And I'm all, "Is this your highest and best?" Question mark. And then period, the end. And I see Scott's face just go red. Like, I mean, red and panic and like sweating. And then his wife's like, "Are you sure we should have done that text?" And he's like, "Well, I'm here trying to learn how to get better. And so we just got to trust." And then you could see just like, "Oh no, like it's my only cash buyer. Like, he doesn't buy, I have to cancel. And I was going to make some money and I could make no money now." And I'm like, you'll be fine. Just wait.
Just a question.
2.5 hours later, I see his face finally get some color back. And I'm like, "Scott, tell me." He's all, dude, he went up $13,000. I'm all, "Yeah, that's my boy." Like, good job. So there's just little nuances that can make this business really turn into even better of a business. So that was some fun stuff. I couldn't remember if you were there for that one or not, but I was just like,
No,
it was
that's
so
awesome.
classic. He was just like, "What am I going to do?" So, well, perfect. So you do your first deal. From there, what takes place? By the way, we have to ring. I'm not in my big office with the big bell. So you're going to have to get this nice little school teacher bell. We're going to ring the victory bell. So you made about a $14,000 deal on your first deal, felling your way forward, not being an expert. We're going to ring the victory bell for you. So here you go. I was like, "Kids, come in. Time to come back in." There's your victory bell. And what since then, and what has taken place? How many deals have you done since your first deal to date?
About 20, somewhere around 25, 26 deals.
25, 26 deals. And is there a typical, like, do you look at CPA? You probably do. What's like an average assignment?
For the month of July, it was about 22,000.
Wow.
And then before that, it was about 15,000. So we've used some of the tactics we learned at scale, and I think that's helped tremendously. But yeah, so I think probably to date, we're probably around the 17, 18,000 per deal for all of our deals.
That's phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal. And so here's what I ask everyone listening today. What would one deal do for you? What would it do for your family? Even if you still just did this part-time. In fact, Sarah, you're full-time, and Philip, you're just kind of part-time, right? You still work at the same job you're at, right?
I'm part-time in our business. So I get up at 5 a.m., sometimes 6, but somewhere between there, and then work on the business.
But at the beginning, Sarah, you were even part-time. You had a full-time job too, right?
Yeah, so we started when we were both working demanding full-time jobs. I mean,
Yeah.
But we kind of saw this as our way to not do that. I did not want to be traveling or tied to a desk when my kids got home from school, and my oldest was entering kindergarten, and I just felt like it just wasn't, it wasn't going to be the life that we wanted. So we kind of set a goal that I would be part-time. And so I went part-time that year with my job. They were really great to let me do that. So I was able to kind of, be with the kids, watch things in the business, free Philip up to do some things.
Yep.
And then a year later, right after scale, actually.
Oh, was it? Was it just right after that?
It was right after scale.
Please, was it me forcing you, or did you like do this on your own?
Yeah, I actually kind of forced her. I said, hey, I think if you're not going to quit, I think I'm going to go ahead and quit my job. And she's like, no, don't do that. So
that's awesome.
He had insurance and all this. But yeah, I mean, it was also like I saw what we could do if I could focus on it, because we actually have a really great team in place. We've done that from the very beginning. Philip started with an assistant, and so it was just the two of them for a while, and then I got a little more involved, and now we have a lead manager, we have a cold caller. We have this team, and they all do incredible without us in the day-to-day. And so I just knew from being at scale, like, we just talked about it and was like, okay, if one of us can focus completely, then we can really make this what we want it to be. So
100%. And it's done that, by the way. You've done that. Like, it's done great. Do you feel like there was a drastic change in deal flow, quality of deals when you went full-time?
So I would say that immediately what we started noticing, I think obviously we kind of changed our perspective on what we wanted to spend on, because we had this huge team in place, right? It was actually more at the time. We had an acquisitions manager. We didn't have the right people in the right places.
Yep.
It allowed us to do immediately was kind of troubleshoot all of that. And it's gotten us to a place where our quality of deals is better. We're spending less time, with some very concerted effort in the last couple of months, less time in the business, more time working on the business.
Yeah.
And so I would say at first it felt a little daunting because we were down a job and things weren't immediately picking up, but it was more those big changes we had to make in our team.
We took a big step back and realized our business was in chaos. Just flat out honest, it was chaotic. I read that book, The E-Myth.
Yep.
Michael
Gerber.
Yeah, I think I read that based on one of your recommendations. But I read that book, and I read Atomic Habits, another one I recommended.
Phenomenal book.
But the combination of those two books has been game changing for us, because you read E-Myth, it talks about how you actually should run a small business, and that if you're working in your business, it's going to create chaos. So Sarah and I fired ourselves, and we started working on the business, on documenting processes and procedures using a software called Trainual.
Yep.
And we're, spending more time coaching and training our people.
So smart.
getting them up. I'm a take charge kind of guy, and I want it done yesterday, and so I'm very much a hard charger. And if it didn't get done right away or the way I wanted, I just step in and just let me handle it.
Yep.
And I ended up causing more problems in our business, bottlenecking our business by doing that. So now we let our team do it. And if they screw up, so what? It's going to be a training moment. And we're going to train them and we're going to talk them through it. And it's been the best decision. Me personally letting go of control has really helped. Before I tried to let go of control, but I think the book, the E-Myth called it delegation by abdication, meaning you get it and you step away and you say, you handle it. That is what I used to do, and that sucks.
That's right. That's right.
If you're gonna delegate, you want to make sure it's systematized, you got it documented, and then you train them.
That's right.
Put them, and then you step away, but you still want to have that element of checking in, making sure periodically that they're on the right track.
And I think part of it was when we were trying to step back before and let them do it. Like he said, if it wasn't done correctly, then you kind of panic, right?
Yep.
I feel like that came from kind of, even though we knew better, it came from a scarcity mindset of, if we lose this deal, right? Then if we do the wrong thing on this deal, then what are we going to do for we won't reach our goals for this month or whatever. Instead of thinking, okay, first of all, if they're a motivated seller, it's not going to, this one is not going to lose this deal.
Yes.
The other thing is there are other deals. This is not the only deal. There are other deals. There are other buyers. Like this is better for our company as a whole, not, this.
So true.
Our company does not depend on this one deal, and we've got to quit kind of feeling that way. And kind of thinking that's our only opportunity, if that makes sense.
So true. Like I sit here and listen to this, I'm like, this is it, guys. I hope you're writing this all down. Like when it comes to scaling and how to do it correctly, don't look with a motivated seller. I don't know if there's anything that either one of us could do that could ruin a deal. Like at the end of the day, I could send in my 12-year-old son and say, hey, just have him sign on this line and let him know I could give him this much. And it would happen. And so there's very little. So yes, think long-term. What is the long-term of this? Don't look right now at this one deal. It's if I can get these guys to replace me and get them in on a process, on a system and get some automation in place, you're ultimately going to get to the point where most people, when they come to me and they're like, hey, I want to get into real estate. And so when I talk to them, like, what's your goals? And before I start coaching them, I always want to know this, like, what are your goals? And every one of them, I would say 90% of them say they want more time back. They want more time with their family. And then when they get in real estate, they kind of forget that goal and they replace their current income, yes, with a higher income through wholesaling real estate, but it ends up just being a higher paying job. They're still throwing time into it and sometimes even more time, and they lose focus on why they got into real estate in the first place. And that was, I want more time back. And so it's crucial to understand at what point do we pivot and get a team in place so that we can really achieve what we really want. And that was get more time back and not throw more time into just a higher paying job.
Really, and to that point, I set a reminder on my phone every day. It's a reminder, it pops up on my phone that remember your why. So it's a subtle reminder every day. Why am I doing this? And my why is, my family and freedom and wanting to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Now I want to be chained.
Love it.
And that's why we chose to scale. Scaling was probably one of the hardest things. Wholesaling is simple. Scaling is not, because then you turn it into a business. Yeah. And there's all kinds of challenges. We definitely keep our why as front and center of why we're doing this. And that's, we know where we're going. So now we just have to create a path to get there.
It's awesome. You guys, I want to thank you guys so much for being on this podcast today. There was so much wisdom, so much gold given on what people could do to start taking action. And as much as we laugh about or be like, oh man, had I just got back in it, oh wait, I know there's many people right now for their first time hearing this in 2020, that could have followed these same footsteps. And 2030 comes around, they're finally hopping in and like, had I just got in 2020 when I first heard about this. So I know they're even learning from your mistakes, my mistakes, like what could we have done differently? But maybe to end the podcast, I want to ask you two questions. What would you do differently? Knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently if you were starting all over again from the beginning?
You want us both to answer that?
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
What would I have done differently?
Or what would you have done the same? I'm fine with either one because it's either a gold nugget towards like this was a win or I learned because this was one of our losses.
So I always heard the saying, be a deal finder and not a deal creator. Okay. While I had that wisdom handed to me, I didn't finally understand it until recently. I feel like, so speed through getting through the leads, getting through the no's to get to the yeses. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't get bogged down by ones that might be a deal, right? They're like, I think this could be a deal. They don't really have quite enough equity, and then just get sucked into a whirlwind of dealing with something that is not going to pan out.
Yeah.
Making quick decisions.
Yeah.
But you got to balance that, I found, with not throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Yep.
You know, you got to realize what motivation is and then make sure they have enough equity and it's a deal, obviously. But, you know, if they don't like your price, okay, let's, you know, mark them for follow-up, you know, and then go after it. So
phenomenal.
I guess being more of a deal finder instead of a deal creator would be something that I think I would have done differently.
Perfect. Sarah, let's hear it.
Well, I think that's a big one, right? And I think we both learned that lesson the hard way, kind of from different perspectives. So, you know, just, I don't know. I think there are a lot of times that we would look at one and we'd be like, even best case scenario, we can only make $2,000 on that one. We need to move on. Where $2,000 is not something to just throw out, right? This is an easy process, unless it's going to consume weeks and weeks of your personal time. It's worth it, you know. So I think that's part of it. But I think too, like I probably had Philip had done more research than me, so I probably had more fear kind of getting into this whole thing, talking to sellers, and I just felt like, you know, throwing out a low offer might be insulting to them or, you know, whatever. And so, but the more I do it, I really wish I'd gotten over that fear earlier. I mean, you know, we closed one this month. I think it's our highest spread to date.
Yeah.
And the seller, after the closing, we're walking out, and she said, truthfully, for everything that y'all have done, because we did a lot of things just to help her, things she just family dynamics and things that she couldn't deal with. So we helped with all of that, and at the end of the day, she's like, if I'd known that, I would have just given you the house. Like it was, you know. So we helped her in a way that she could. Money didn't quantify that, right? So she told us she hoped we made $200,000 on the house, which we didn't, but that would have been nice. But
Yeah.
40-year burden, nail in her side is what she said. Exactly.
Yeah.
She thanked us.
And she called me the week after just to tell me how much she was just sitting there thinking about how grateful she was for us. So
that's awesome.
Our family is why we do the business. But the reason this business is a good fit for us is because we're helping people. And, you know, if we can't help somebody, it doesn't help them if we waste their time.
So true.
And move on so that we can get to more people to help. So I think
that's true.
A big thing that I wish I had kind of grabbed on earlier.
You guys are awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys for being on the podcast. I know you guys have a ton of things you could be doing right now, and I'm grateful for the time you took away from your business, from your team, from your family to do this, because I know your story is going to resonate with a lot of people. It's going to be something that inspires them and motivates them to get out there and just start taking imperfect action and get out there and go take a shot at that first deal, because you don't really learn by just sitting behind YouTube University. You learn your best learning comes from just getting out there and imperfect action. So thank you guys so much for being on the show today.
Thank you,
Thank
Cody.
you so
Thanks
much,
for having
Cody. We
us.
appreciate it.
Thanks for everything you've done for us too.
Yeah, and I'm still here for you guys. Whenever you need me, you let me know. We are friends, dear friends, and you guys come visit Great Salt Lake whenever you want, and I'll be there to help even drive you there if you want. I'll
You
go
guys
look
are
at it.
having the
I'll
next
go look
scale.
at it.
The next scale event is on a boat, right? Are you going to put it on in the Salt Lake?
There's very few boats that can go out there. They have to be a sailboat because the salt's so bad it eats the motors. Like, it's so crazy how salty this place is. But yes, we could do something like that. Let's think of something fun for you to do that. It might be just the two of you attending, but we'll see how that goes. But for those of you listening today, I want to thank you for being on the podcast today. Head on over to codyhoffine.com where you can get your free script to learn how to talk to motivated sellers right now, so that when you have leads coming in, you'll know what to do and how to get the conversation going. So again, head on over to codyhoffine.com where you can learn more about coaching in general, but learn about or get just free takeaway right now for getting the script so you can get out there and start talking to motivated sellers. And then we'll see you all on the next podcast episode. Take care.